Lonsec wishes to remind that the information we provide on our portfolios is general advice, and we encourage investors to read the PDS or seek professional advice prior to making any decisions on their investments.
Today we're joined by Lucas Porbeau from Lonsec. He's an investment guru that works at Lonsec, looking after all things about the market, an economist. So we've got a few questions to run through with Lucas about what's happening in the world, the share markets, and investment portfolios across the board. So thanks for joining us today, Lucas. Wayne, I have some questions, I suppose, around that recession interest rate stuff, and maybe I'll piggyback in a recession there and interest rates, because obviously they go hand in hand in that. And a conversation I was having with a client last week about the market prices in information, that wait for information. They kind of, and we saw that with the last interest rate rise not doing as much. But there's talks about maybe Australia will be protected from a recession. The US may head into one because of how aggressive they're being over there. I mean, obviously, it's a big, scary word, recession. Obviously, there's lots of history of recession. Is it as scary as it may sound? And if we technically hit a recession, does that mean the market's going to fall another 20%, or is that likely factored in? Thoughts around the big R word?
No, you're absolutely right. So markets, try to sort of price in ahead of time. So, if you do, by the time you hit a recession, the market's already priced it in. It's sort of interesting. Like when I've looked at this on a global level, but previous recessions and so markets do fall. They tend to fall just before, as I say, they're already priced it in, right? So you get the fall, but then typically then you get a very strong rally on recovery. So Australia is quite fortunate in a way in that the structure of our economy. So if you think about, obviously we're heavy on commodities and resources and so forth. So the structure of our economy is pretty. It's been positive for in this environment. Our base case at the moment is that from an Australian perspective, we wouldn't expect a deep recession. That's not our base case. But to your point, the market will have priced that in ahead of time. And, this is one of the, that's why we're seeing volatility at the moment. Obviously, it's inflation related, but it's also, what does that mean for growth and so forth. From a bottom-up perspective, yes, we do think earnings more broadly across the market are going to be more challenged than they maybe were in the past. But yeah, it's not all. If it was a very deep recession, then I think that's a different thing. But we're not seeing that at the moment from an Aussie perspective.
And what is it that makes you think that Australia won't be in a deep recession? Is it because of our commodities trade or anything in particular that you point to?
Yeah, I think overall in terms of the economic growth piece, like yes, housing is a big part of the economy, but then, as I said, we've got some other parts, and notably things like resources and commodities, which are probably going to do okay in terms of from an economic and revenue from a national perspective. So, and our inflationary sort of figures, while yes, they've been accelerating, they haven't been as pronounced as other parts of the world. We don't have some of the challenges, for example, Europe in terms of energy security, which could have a big impact in terms of economic growth, for example. So I think it's a relative game, and I think we're just on a relative perspective probably in a stronger position than some other parts of the world.
I think it was only recently, actually, that the new Labor government brokered some sort of deal to supply gas to at least the eastern seaboard, I believe, from our reserves, which wasn't in the past always the case. The companies could sell off the gas to whoever they wanted, but there's now some sort of mechanism that they can flick a switch and say, no, you must sell it to the local industries, for example, so that we can keep producing goods in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, look, it's a fascinating debate now, and it's really, I mean, it has really highlighted this conflict in terms of the importance of energy security and you know, and food security and so forth.